The sun is shining and it's a beautiful day to be doing some outdoor cooking on a charcoal grill. And I'm in the mood for a burger, but not just any burger. I want to make the biggest, thickest, smokiest burger I can. That is, of course, if it doesn't get stolen first. I'm even going to go the extra step of making my own minced beef for the patties. Don't happen to have a meat grinder at home? That's fine, neither do I. I'll show you some ways to get around that and make your own delicious beef burger blends at home. Then I'm going to cook that patty low and slow until it's got a nice, deep, smoky flavour. If that sounds good to you, then let's get snacking. So let's not muck around and get straight to the beef. Here I've got a nice big piece of grass-fed chuck. Chuck is an excellent choice for burgers. It's got a great beefy flavour and plenty of fat. And fat is really important for burgers because it carries a lot of that beefy flavour and keeps the burger nice and juicy. Brisket or short rib would also be really good options with tons of flavour and plenty of fat. Or you can mix and match and try different combinations to get the best all-round beefy flavour. So to start with, I'm taking my chuck and I'm cutting it into roughly 1-inch pieces. Then they're going to go in the freezer for about 20 minutes. I'm not looking to freeze them, I just want to get them to a point where they're starting to firm up. Now because I don't have a meat grinder, I'm doing this in a food processor, so in preparation I'm putting the blades of my food processor in the freezer as well to make sure everything stays nice and cold when it's blending. This is important for 2 reasons. 1, keeping things nice and cool means we're not going to melt any of the fat, and 2, it'll keep things as hygienic as possible. This is meat after all, and you don't really want it getting too warm until it's time to cook. So while that's chilling down, I'm going to get my food processor set up ready to go, and then I'm heading out to the backyard to set up my grill. And this little fella is my charcoal grill. It's a Matador Radiant Move, and although it looks small, it's actually more than big enough for most of my needs, and its small size makes it really handy for taking it out and about. I'll be testing out this charcoal grill a bit more over the next couple of months with some different recipes, so if you're interested in that, hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out. So I'm setting this up on a sturdy, non-flammable surface and up out of the reach of the dog. And the idea here is to put all the coals in one side so that the grill has a hot side and a cool side. The cool side we'll use to slowly cook the burger and give it plenty of time to absorb lots of smoky flavors, and then I'll use the hot side at the end to grill it over high heat and give the surface a nice char. Today I'm using lump charcoal, but charcoal briquettes work just fine too. And to make them easy to light, I'm popping them in a chimney, along with a few fire lighters here and there. These fire starters are just natural fibre, they're quite cheap, but they're really effective at getting a nice fire going. So that's my cooking fuel ready to go, but I'm not going to light it up yet. It's easily been 20 minutes, so I'd better go rescue that beef, otherwise it's going to freeze completely. So now we've got some nice firm chunks of beef, not frozen solid, still kind of squishy in the middle, but definitely starting to get fairly firm around the edges. And this will be just perfect for food processing. So all that beef's going into the food processor, and I'll give it a few pulses to get things started, and then as it starts to break down, I'll slowly increase the time, and then I'll blend it for a little bit longer each time until it looks like a nice ground beef consistency. You want to get it reasonably fine, but you don't want to overwork it, otherwise it'll become too sticky. It's a bit of a balancing act, but I chose to stop when the consistency looks like this. As you can see, the individual pieces of beef are really quite fine, and if you squeeze it together like a patty, it sticks together quite easily. That's about perfect. And then I'm going to shape this beef into a big, thick patty. And to be perfectly honest, I think I got a little bit carried away and ended up making this burger a bit thicker than I really needed to. I mean, I did want a big, thick patty, but this is a bit of a monster, and I'm curious to see just how much it weighs. Whew, and that's coming in at 434 grams, or in American, 15.3 ounces. Wow, that's pretty close to half a kilo of beef right there. This is going to be a pretty generous burger. Now this hasn't used up all the meat, but there's not enough left for a second patty. But I think I can find a pretty good use for it. Here you go, buddy. Sit. 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 Good boy, Free. Next, to get things organised, I'm going to toast up the bun so that it's ready to go, and then organise my condiments. And for this, I'm keeping it super simple. I really just want the big, smoky, beefy flavour of the burger to come through with minimal distractions. So no sauces, just a couple of slices of American cheese and a sprinkling of diced onion. I think cheese is a must-have with any burger, and the onion will just bring a little bit of bite and pungency. And that, along with a big, beefy burger, should be enough. I'm also going to make a basic seasoning for this burger. Ordinarily, I just used salt and maybe a little bit of pepper, but for this one I'm also adding a bit of garlic powder. So we've got a generous amount of freshly cracked black pepper, salt and garlic powder in equal measures. And that should just enhance and complement the meaty, smoky flavour. So I'm lighting up a chimney full of charcoal and getting that nice and hot before pouring it into one side of my grill. And for a nice flavourful smoke, I'm throwing in a chunk of cherry wood. I'm giving that a couple of minutes to heat everything up, then a quick clean of the grill and on with our burger patty. And at this point I realised I'd forgotten to season it, but better late than never. I'll put a generous sprinkling of the seasoning on top, flip it and then do the same with the other side. And then on with the lid, and I've intentionally got one vent closed, but the vent over the meat left open. The idea is that the smoke will rise, it'll get drawn across the meat imparting its lovely smoky flavour, and then exit out the vent at the top. And then we wait. Because we're cooking low and slow, it's gonna take a while before this is cooked. Mine took around about an hour. So take that opportunity to have a seat, relax, and crack open a nice cool drink. When I think it's close to being done, I'm going to stick a temperature probe in to check, and if the temperature's getting up around the high 50s, I'm going to shift it over to the hot side to sear. The hot side should be ripping hot, and it shouldn't take too long to get a nice brown crust on both sides. And we don't want to overcook this, so don't spend too long on it, but by the time you've got a nice crust on both sides, the internal temp should be around about 65 degrees. And while it's still on the grill, slap on a couple of slices of American cheese to start it melting. Then throw that big thick chunk of meat into a bun, and then top generously with the diced onions. And that is our big, thick, smoky burger. And it tastes great. Super rich and beefy, really smoky, and really satisfying. And you can see that even with the long slow cook, it's still super moist and juicy. This has got to be the best burger I've had in quite a while. I'm pretty pleased with myself. It's really, really good. Ah, no, none for you, sorry bud. Okay, well, maybe a little bit.
You can have a little bit, but you gotta work for it. Sit. Okay. Good boy. High five. That's not a high five. High five. High five. Yeah, don't leave it hanging. Spin. Good boy. There you go.
But little did I know that while I was distracted with the dog, somebody else was eyeing off my burger. Good boy, you chase him off. That's my burger.